Hi, welcome back. I'm Sheldon McLeod. This is Thinking Out Loud, presented to you by SaltWire, and have had many conversations over the years with Janet Hazelton. There's a story Frank Campbell posted at SaltWire. Nurses raise safety, life-work balance concerns at their annual convention. Something else that came from that convention was an election of the president. And in fact, the news release was quite blunt. Janet Hazelton reelected president of the board of directors of the Nova Scotia Nurses Union, a position she's held since October of 2002. And President Hazelton is here. Thank you very much for joining me, and congratulations.
Well, thank you very much, and I'm very pleased to be reelected. It demonstrates, I believe, that the membership of the Nurses Union still believe that I'm able to lead them through some of these very difficult times.
And these difficult times include some of the challenges that were presented in that story. That headline could have been 5 years ago. That could have been 10 years ago. I mean, it seems like this is not a situation that's getting any better.
No, absolutely. In fact, I'd say it's getting worse. And some of the reasons I think it's getting worse is because people don't have primary care practitioners. So they often have to go to our emergency departments and they have to wait for hours and hours and hours. And they get frustrated. And when they get frustrated, they sometimes do and say things that are not appropriate.
Do you think the government knows this, that the department knows this, that the people in charge, the administrators, that they know this?
Certainly they do, because we have nurses that are off all over this province as a result of an injury. We have a nurse at this very convention that has a concussion because she was headbutted. And so she's been off work now for a few weeks and doesn't see a return date yet. All of these injuries are preventable, and they need to be prevented, not just because it's not right that nurses are getting hurt, but because we need each and every nurse. We need them in our work sites. We need them looking after Nova Scotians, not off on workers' compensation because they've got hurt at work unnecessarily.
What can you say about the contract negotiations and that particular issue?
Well, I think some of the things that we're talking about is increased security in our sites. Some of our sites don't have any security at all, and some of them that do have security, it's not adequate. So I think we need to have people in place to protect nurses when they're at work. That's unfortunate that we're at that place, but we are, and we have to deal with it.
And to talk a little bit more about the contract that has expired, you've been working since 2020 on an expired contract?
Yeah, so we just recently got to the table, though. It's not uncommon for us to have expired contracts, and with COVID, it sort of got pushed out. And so we are at the table with our acute care employers, and then we'll have to do long-term care and VON. But we're there now, and we're all focused on getting a contract that addresses compensation, of course, but also some of the work-life balance issues that nurses have been talking to us about for a very long time. And they reiterated a lot of that over the last couple of days.
The $10,000 thank you bonus that has been in the news was presented as a way to give something to these men and women who are working in healthcare. But some suggest that was also a way to short circuit in some way the negotiations. Is that how you saw it?
Well, that certainly, I made it extremely clear to the Premier that shouldn't have and isn't his intent. And he reiterated that it is not, that it was something but it will not affect our negotiations.
And you're confident that it's not a part of that conversation, even though there's a possibility that some would see an additional bonus if they sign on long term? That does sound like an enticement.
It is an enticement. I think we are in such a competitive market at this point that I think government realized that, we have to do something to keep nurses in Nova Scotia. And that's what that was. It was, if you had a permanent job, you get the first 10. And if you agree to 2 more years, you get the second 10.
We had talked about travel nurses and how that was an issue with morale. For people who've been in the trenches for a long time. I don't think anyone would blame someone for taking advantage of that situation if they're in healthcare. But can you speak to that? Is that something that comes up in negotiation?
Yeah, well, we will be talking about it in negotiations at some point. It is kind of disheartening to be working beside a nurse that's making double or triple what you're making, oftentimes not able to do the same job that you do because you're familiar and you're able to do it. So it is frustrating, but we understand it also is, we have no nurses, so it's sort of a double-edged sword. But I think we heard from nurses this week that, they don't understand why they can't do some of the things that they ought to be doing. And we will be having conversations with the health authority and others that employ travel nurses.
And here's your annual convention and the election that just happened. And again, congratulations. How has that role changed for you since 2002?
I think in 2002, we had a shortage, but it was nowhere near what it is today. The work-life balance has been an issue over the years, but it's nowhere near what it is today. So I think the shortage, I think COVID really highlighted the shortage. The good thing is, or the thing that I'm most optimistic about, we always knew it as unions, we always knew it as nurses, but now we know that our governments, both federally and provincially, they know it too. And they know it's a competitive market. That's why the bonuses and other things are happening. So I think we've got the attention of governments, we've got the attention of the public, and we're optimistic that good things are going to come from this attention.
Why did you run 21 years ago, and why are you still interested in holding this job?
21 years ago, I ran because I'm very passionate about nursing and nurses. I felt that we needed a strong, consistent voice to represent nurses that is passionate about representing nurses, and I was that then, and I continue to be. I'm just as passionate, if not more, than I was 21 years ago, and I now have the experience and the knowledge, and I listen to nurses every day, and nurses were telling me, you can't leave us. We need your leadership more than ever before, and so I took that to heart, and I agreed to run again.
Well, I know you have to go run right now to bring on Star Dobson or Star Cunningham. Thank you, Janet Hazelton. Again, I really do appreciate your availability over the years, and clearly the membership has confidence in you and the job that you do. So again,
thank you very much. Thanks. Bye.